This is a good movie podcast with Katie and Joe.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of This is a Good Movie podcast. I am part one of your hosts, Katie Ellis.
And part two is a year later. I'm Joe Bates, the other host, part two host.
The part two host. Thanks for joining me today, Joe.
No problem, part one host.
I thought maybe we could do, what if we did a different style
Yeah,
entirely?
I gotta be honest, I think we just lost viewers 30 seconds into this.
Viewers? How are they watching us?
I don't know if you know this, but I do drawings for everyone.
You've been illustrating like a courtroom illustrator?
Yeah.
Oh, courtroom. A little hint about what our movie is today.
Yeah, a little hint in the weird courtroom drama, but not really a courtroom drama, biopic, but it feels like a fake person movie.
Joe, how was your birthday? Because you wouldn't shut up about it last time.
Oh, did you get the clue? My birthday was okay. Work was really crazy, stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly it was outside the dinner we had maybe one of my worst birthdays I've ever had in my life. So
cool.
That's cool. 39 years to get there, so that's not bad. So yeah, I would say worst birthday yet.
Okay, well, it can only go up from here, I suppose.
Or it could keep going further and further down. I don't know. Anything can happen.
Well, that's bleak.
What about how was your week? One of the worst weeks I've ever had.
It was not our best.
Not our
but
best week.
that's okay. You know who else had a bad week
America.
sometimes? Molly Bloom.
Molly, fucking the unsinkable Molly Bloom.
No, that's a different person. Anyway, before we get to talking about Molly's Game, our movie for the week, do you have any movie news?
I don't have movie news, but I would
Okay,
like to,
that's your one job.
But I would like to make this category a once-a-year category.
What?
Which is the Iron Claw Award for Missed Oscar Opportunity Movie.
Okay.
So this year, we've seen a lot of movies this year.
Last year, 2024.
Yes, 2024.
We saw a lot of movies.
So, and I think the year before that, we saw a lot of movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people would say, well, wouldn't Amsterdam be the Iron Claw movie a couple years ago? No, that movie sucked. Never bring that movie up again. So what is this year? So last year, we both really liked Iron Claw. I had my qualms with it because it wasn't as accurate as I was hoping.
Thought it was a perfect film.
And you thought Zac Efron should have been Shrek Efron.
What?
My suggestion for this year of completely missed movie by the Oscars that I'm disappointed in, completely missed in dialogue and stuff, is Saturday Night.
Yeah. It got some Globe recognition, but...
Yeah. I was hoping it would get production design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the very least.
Because that was really impressive.
Because it looked just like the stage and the way they did everything. I thought that was really done really well.
Yeah, that was a great movie. I mean, I think there are a number of films that maybe they got one or two nominations and deserved more, but some that were just totally
blanked.
They got nothing.
So
Last Showgirl got nothing.
The Last
Baby
Showgirl
Girl got nothing.
Not surprised.
Challengers got nothing.
You watched Baby Girl and Challengers.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it sounds like Challengers you're more shocked at than Baby Girl.
I think so. Yeah.
What's your nomination for the Iron Claw Award of fully snubbed by the Academy?
Probably Madam Web.
Oh yeah,
it got nothing, which is shocking.
Nothing. Well, the directors were in the rainforest.
They were in the Amazon with my mom right before she died when she was studying spiders.
Man, we have to get out of here. Did you kidnap us? I mean, technically, yes. Didn't they CGI a Coke can in that movie, too? I don't know if you know. We have to watch that again because there is a scene where it's a fully digitized soda that she's holding on when she goes to the backyard barbecue.
Okay.
She has a fully digitized soda that she's holding.
Why?
No one knows.
I need to find out why that is. That movie is such a mystery, and I will watch it again. And it has like the casting is crazy.
You ever have a dream where you kill women?
That guy, don't know him at all. Everything he did, I think, was added in post. Like, there's no connection between his actual acting in the film and then like what you see. I feel like is so disconnected. But Dakota Johnson, great.
It's too complicated to explain Ezekiel Sims from the comic book.
Okay.
But it is not that guy. He is like, maybe he has a fight with Spider-Man once, but is like kind of helping Spider-Man as like an old man that knows about the history of spider powers.
Spider-Man isn't even in this one because he's not born yet. He's a baby.
I mean, he is in it. He's a baby. He's baby Spider.
This takes place in the 90s.
Which I think is why they digitized the soda.
Maybe like to get the right can or whatever.
Because they cared about that kind of accuracy. Anyway, sounds like Madam Web should have got nominated for something. I am sure. Honestly, this is the first year I'm interested in the raspberries, the golden raspberries, because there's so much.
The Razzies?
The Razzies, sorry.
Not raspberries.
They're short for raspberries.
I don't think it is. The raspberries.
Oh, great. I got a big raspberry. I am interested in the Razzies this year because Joker 2.
Ugh,
Megalopolis.
Bad.
Rebel Moon Part 2.
Awful.
Madam Web.
The Brutalist. Just
What
kidding.
the fuck?
Do you think, what if Amelia Perez becomes the first film to be both Oscar nominated and Razzie nominated?
I honestly think there
already is a film like that?
I think there is a film like that. I am pretty sure there's a film where someone won the Oscar and the Razzie for acting. And I think it might be like Salma Hayek or something like that.
What? Oh, we're going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
That can be our movie news next
That'll
week.
be our movie news next week. But it's award season, so that's why I wanted to say. I think the Iron Claw Award for fully snubbed movie that we're shocked at.
Saturday night.
Madam Web.
And Madam Web.
All right. Well, Matt, we've talked about a lady film being unrepresented by the Academy. Maybe we should talk about another one this week.
Well, Molly's Game received one Oscar nomination.
Really?
Yes, it did.
I'm going to take a guess here at this because I don't think it's acting.
It was not.
Strongly don't think it's acting. I don't think it's editing.
No.
I'm going to say I don't think it's production design. These are what I've seen in this movie. There's no way they're nominated for this. It has to be screenwriting.
It is adapted screenplay.
Yeah. Even then, I don't know this lady, but I'll tell you what, Molly Bloom, I do not like her.
Okay, wow.
Let's get into this movie. Let's talk about the
into
release.
it.
Let's talk about the
Jeez
release.
Louise.
Let's talk about that box office. Let's talk about that rake.
Okay, Molly's Game came out in 2017. It is written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. It is his directorial debut, actually. So he had written stuff before this, like
he's done TV before.
Well, obviously, The West Wing and all of that. But he had also like written films before this, like the President one.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
The movie that is basically West Wing, the movie.
Yeah,
This American President, I think it's called.
This American President. He wrote The Social Network.
Yeah, that's a good movie. So I guess I do like Aaron Sorkin more than I realize.
Yeah, but this was his directorial debut. He since has also directed Trial of the Chicago 7, which I don't think you watched.
I watched parts of it when you were watching, but no, I never watched that movie.
Yeah, really good. And then Being the Ricardos.
Which was fine.
I thought it was pretty good.
I think we appreciate Nicole Kidman being Lucille Ball more than anything in that movie, so that's what I take away. And then J. Edgar Hoover saves the day, everyone's favorite hero.
Yeah, wild. It's based on a 2014 memoir by Molly Bloom. We'll get more into that. Budget was $30 million for this.
That seems fair.
Do you want to take a guess at box office?
I'm guessing it made money back, and that's about it.
Yeah,
because I've never heard of this movie.
Oh, that's so wild. $60 million box
So
office.
usually you take like whatever the budget is and double it to account for advertising, and so it looks like it just broke even, this movie.
Pretty much. It's got an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So people like it. Yeah, it was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for the Oscars, and then
Most use of narration.
no. And it did get 2 Golden Globe nominations as well. One for Best Screenplay and Best Actress for Jessica Chastain.
For a Golden Globe. That makes
Golden
sense.
Globe.
I get that. I mean, she's in the movie so much, and it is a biopic, so yeah, I get it. She's a real biopic person.
Yeah, I guess she is.
Well, I guess it's
Tammy
just this
Faye.
and Tammy Faye. I'm trying to think of a third
There
one.
might be others out there that I just don't know about.
She's in Homeland?
No.
Oh, never mind. What TV show was she in that was like before, in like the 2010s?
I don't know.
I thought she was from TV, but maybe I'm just
I don't think she
misremembering.
is.
Yeah, no, you're right. She was in Veronica Mars for an episode.
Okay, but yeah, she's not a TV
from
person.
TV.
She's
Yeah, sorry. I'm
film.
misremembering somebody else then.
Are you thinking of Bryce Dallas Howard? Because
Exactly.
everyone always mixes up Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard, even though they really don't
I don't
look
think they
alike.
look alike.
They just, well, they were both in The Help, and then they both usually have red hair. And that's like it.
Yeah, I mean, my Bryce Dallas Howard remembering is Jurassic World, so that just does not look like Jessica Chastain at all when she's in high heels running from a T-Rex.
Yeah, not at all. Okay, well, what did you think this movie was going to be about?
That's a great question, Katie. I'm glad you asked me. So you had kind of vaguely mentioned this movie to me before. You've really pushed the poker thing on me. So I thought the movie would be Molly plays poker, but the stakes this time have never been higher. Basically, she's asked to be a spy, even though she's never spied. But she's really good at that, so it helps with the spying. She's really good at tells, so it helps with the spying.
And that is
not the movie.
the movie. Did you know that this is based on a memoir, that it's Molly Bloom is a real person?
No, I 100%. And I think another thing I saw is that somebody said, like, I saw, like, in a description, I saw action, which that was a lie.
Yeah. It's
I thought it was like
not-
an action-y movie.
No.
And I was like, that makes sense. Katie would like a movie where this person gets thrown into a thing way in over her head and has to, like, do spy stuff.
I mean, what you're describing is the movie Argyle, which stars Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, I mean, you watched that movie, right?
Yeah,
Argyle.
I did. It
Spoilers,
was bad.
folks. The
It was
twist
bad.
is she is the spy.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's what it is. So Molly Bloom, Colorado native, shout out. She, real person, was injured while skiing because she was on like the national team.
She hit a little thing, very big accident. So she was like trying out. She had a chance.
She was going to go to the Olympics, but in the qualifying thing,
broke her body.
So she is like, well, giving up on that, something she trained her entire life for.
When she does this flip, she lands on her head, and it is sickening to watch. But my favorite part about it is that she slides for so long. Because it's a slope and it's the snow. You're going to be sliding for a while. But as she pauses, her helmet rolls up to her like a dog chasing her.
Yeah.
Like it just rolls up right next to her.
So they filmed that on, I mean, it's like a real place where they
Yeah.
went and filmed that. And so it is just like a sheet of ice, essentially, that's like at a crazy angle that's sloped down. And so you have Aaron Sorkin like at the top with all of these like professional stunt people, and he's trying to direct them, and he like can't stand up. He like kept falling down multiple times and was like, I couldn't do it. And so then 2 people had to like hold him up by the arm so he could give direction to everyone else, like such a loser. So anyway,
Well, at least
back
Aaron
to-
Sorkin looks like Aaron Sorkin. That's going to add to looking like a total loser.
So back to just quickly giving the plot is what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. So she leaves that world, goes to LA, gets a job as like a waitress or a cocktail waitress, and then is like stumbles into working for this guy who's like a part owner of the club, and he's like a real estate guy, and through him gets involved in the world of poker. He's got like a high stakes poker game with celebrities, athletes, etc. She comes in to run it, and now she is like a professional poker game runner.
Illegal gamble, but it's not illegal.
It's not illegal because what she doesn't get paid from the game. Like she doesn't take part of the winnings, she just gets tipped. And so the tips are legal, and she creates an event and catering company. It's like an LLC. Yep. So that's all like above board. That's how she hires people to be dealers and stuff like that. And then things go south, and she gets cut out of the game, and then like moves to New York, is going to run a game there. And then the reason that this all comes to ahead and is in the film is that she gets mixed up with like the FBI, and she is under investigation because there were some Russian mobsters at one of her games in New York, and so they're kind of trying to use her to like take down the Russian mafia, and she is trying to figure that out. So that's the story. Now, what's different between the memoir and the movie, I mean, there's a few different things, but the memoir is written, as you see in the film, before she goes to court.
Yes.
So she like writes this book. So all of the stuff with the lawyer in this is, I mean, she really did go to court. She really did have a lawyer, probably a team of lawyers, but that part in the movie is all fictionalized. So like Charlie Jaffe, played by Idris Elba, that's not a real person.
That makes sense because that lawyer is insane and a terrible lawyer, and just so many levels of like, well, my daughter loves your book. That's the only reason I'm defending you for free. Wait, you got $2 million in debt out there? Yeah, I can get you the money. But she never gets him the money.
No, she does in the end, I think, eventually. And that is like the one part about the lawyer that is true. Her real lawyer did take on the case when like she was in crazy debt and so couldn't pay him yet. And so he took the case on, you know, assuming that he would get paid eventually. So that part is real. But everything else about Charlie Jaffe is a plot device, essentially, like a way to tell the story of the memoir within a larger context. And Aaron Sorkin said that, like, you know, when he was approached, because I think Molly Bloom like sought him out to write this movie. And so when he was approached by Molly, he was like, okay, like I get, you know, her deal, whatever. You see her on the book and she looks a certain way, kind of all dolled up. And you think, okay, this lady's like involved in high stakes poker. Like you just get a certain image of her. And so Aaron Sorkin's like meetings with her and realization of like, oh, she's actually a pretty good person. Like she's making, for all, you know, intents and purposes, she's making good choices here. She's not, you know, beating people up to collect on her debt. She's not like, for the most part, wasn't
everything's above board.
Yeah, like
mostly.
Yeah, until she's really like down on her luck and addicted to drugs. But so his like realization of that is kind of mirrored by Charlie Jaffe's realization of Molly Bloom in the movie. So I just thought that was interesting.
That makes sense because it's like, why would they have a book without like this part in the book? So it was like a weird movie choice, but that makes sense that the book is actually all of the movie except that one lawyer thing.
Yeah. Let's okay, so let's I think we can break up the movie into a few different parts.
So you know, before you get into this, you've just shown me 2 movies in a row where in the movie, the book of the movie is in it. That it seems to be a trope that you are now forcing on me.
Yeah. What will the next one be?
The Muppet movie, which is the movie of the movie.
Right. Okay, so I think you can split up this movie into like a few different parts. You've got, you know, while she's in LA, the game's there. You've got the New York games. You've got obviously the trial and like the court stuff, lawyer stuff. And then you've got kind of like her background and family a little bit as well. So,
what would you like to talk about first?
I guess let's talk about the poker.
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 So she's in LA, she's working at the Cobra Lounge, which is based on a real place called the Viper Room.
Wow. It's the Lizard Lounge all over again.
the Viper Room, interesting factoid about it is that is where River Phoenix died in the 90s.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
He got shot?
No, I think he overdosed.
The shot of yourself.
Yeah,
He did too many shots.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's sad.
So she's like working there, and then
Sometimes I think about like Joaquin Phoenix and like his brother died at a young age and was supposed to be a famous movie star, and then he like was sort of doing movies, but like now is like a famous movie star. Probably why he's a kind of an odd dude.
He's the Joker.
Yeah, the joke. Yep. Okay. So River Phoenix dies in this movie.
Anyway, so that's where she meets Dean Keith, who is based on a real person. I mean, pretty much everyone in this is based on a real person except for the lawyer.
She meets a bunch of like movie star people. She meets some rock stars and sports athletes.
Yeah, sports athletes.
In the middle of saying it, I was like, well, it's too late. I know I'm
No,
saying this
so
wrong.
Dean Keith, played by Jeremy Strong, who just comes off as like a total asshole.
I don't think Jeremy Strong ever not comes off like that.
Yeah, I think it's impossible for him. Like, I
honestly
don't know
feel bad for him.
any roles he plays where he's not an asshole.
We talked about this because we're like, he got nominated for an Oscar, and I was just like, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah. Anyway, some of like his dialogue and stuff is pulled directly from the book. A lot of stuff is pulled directly from the book. So he decides like he's going to be hosting a poker game, and so she doesn't know anything about poker and like really is looking up stuff of like, how do you do poker?
I can't express, if you watch this movie realizing it's somebody writing themselves in a movie and it's a biopic, imagine Good Will Hunting, but it's real. And Matt Damon's like, I'm so smart. I'm the smartest person. Every time I can just learn things so quickly and I can understand everything so fast. And I'm just so much smarter than everybody else. That's what I felt like the whole movie is. Molly Bloom is just, she's 5 steps ahead of everybody. And she's always so smart.
Well, I think she is. She comes from a very smart family.
I agree, and I understand
She's got an Olympian brother, and the other one was what, like a doctor or professor or something?
But
like,
when you're writing a movie and like...
Well, she didn't write the movie. Aaron Sorkin wrote the movie.
No, but she wrote the book that the movie is...
Have you read the book? Do you know that in the book it says... Molly's the smartest person ever, and Molly refers to herself in third person.
Molly.
We haven't read it. We're not gonna read it. So
I don't think I'm wrong in my assessment, because that is Aaron Sorkin is writing this movie based on what he is taking from the book.
Yes, that is true. However, here's what I'll say is like, and this is kind of what Aaron Sorkin has said in interviews. Like, it's not a movie about a poker whiz.
No.
That's like not what this film is about. It's about someone who is really good at understanding people and understanding powerful men and what they want and what they're looking for. So it's more like she is a whiz at hospitality.
Yeah, no,
than anything else.
I'm not saying like she's better at poker than people. I'm just saying that everything she does, it's always like she kind of is a little bit ahead of everybody. I will say, let's talk to the poker in this movie. I play poker. I know the rules.
I don't, and I don't know the rules.
Do you feel like this helped you understand poker?
It, I guess, helps me understand like some of the terminology, but I definitely, after watching this film, can't go play poker.
Yeah, the second time you've watched this film.
Yeah.
Okay.
I roll up to Vegas. I've watched Molly's game 5 times.
I will say the 2 most well-represented poker players in this movie are my 2 favorite characters in this movie. I think the most well-rounded and understood.
Okay.
One is Brad, who just constantly loses money but wants to make friends, but actually he's making hedge fund deals and everything.
Yeah, and actually he's running a Ponzi scheme, which later leads to a huge lawsuit that
causes a lot of
They talk
issues.
about it a little bit in this film, but yeah, it was a huge lawsuit where the people that he owed money sued the celebrities that he lost the money to. So they sued like Player X, the real Player X, And so that's why some of them ended up getting named in the lawsuit. And so then she named those ones in her book, but refused to name anyone else.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But that kind of, oh, I don't care about losing a bunch of money. I'm stealing their money actually anyways. That guy seems real.
Yeah.
And that he's that bad at poker. Like, I've just seen that a lot.
Brian Darcy James. I thought the casting in this was like honestly really good.
Yeah. My second favorite character is, I believe his name, Harlan. The old guy that goes on tilt.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's like so hard to watch. He loses everything.
I 100% have seen that person as well, where I'm like, that's real. Like, that's well-rounded, what's going on with him. He's in above his head in a poker thing, but he's good enough that he doesn't need... He plays slow enough and understands what he's doing so well. And to get fucked over by Brad in, like, the worst luck thing and then having that, like, snap your brain.
So Molly, the real Molly, has said that, like, the highest hand or whatever they had on the table at a time was $100 million. Someone lost $100 million in one hand, and they paid the next day.
That's crazy.
I know. Yeah. She said the most that she ever had to, like, because, you know, the reason she has this big, like, debt sheet is because she wasn't taking part of the pot most of the time. So if someone didn't pay up, then, like, she had to cover it. And she, as the hands get bigger and bigger, she wasn't able to. So then she started taking some. But she said the most that she ever had to pay out because someone, like, couldn't do it was $250,000.
Okay, that's not terrible. I mean,
compared to $100 million, it's not
she's
bad.
She's actually doing pretty well for just tips.
Yeah.
I mean, she seems like she's probably pulling in like $200,000 to $300,000 easily. I think
she had like $4 million or something that the government took when they froze all her assets or whatever.
But that was later when she was taking a rake.
Yeah.
I think part of this movie is that, like, when you explain Molly Brown talking about her life, I'm like, that's interesting. I don't think it translates as well into a movie because there's a lot of, like, admin work that has to be shown and what's being done.
Yeah, they do show her, like, after the game. She's always, like, typing away on her little computer. And then you've got, like, Chris O'Dowd coming up to her, like, being drunk. Like, they do make things are happening while she is working. But I think... I don't know. I like that because you're seeing what
real life is.
A job, like, I don't know. But I am biased because I really like this movie.
And then, like, her narrating over everything, it clicked in the middle of the movie what this reminded me of.
Is it The West Wing?
No. It reminded me of, like, Goodfellas or The Irishman. It was like, oh, when I was 15, I worked for this guy, and this is how this happened. And then they show the scene, and, like, kind of the narration leads into the scene every time. So it felt like a gangster movie, filmed like a gangster movie with the excitement of not a gangster movie.
I like that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I like this movie because even though it's about poker, it's not really about poker. It's about power and control and rich men being awful and, like, so. Yeah,
I guess to me, like, every poker player is a terrible person. So I don't find it as rich people being bad. I find, like, people who love playing poker as much as possible are all kind of shitty.
Yeah, fair enough. So we've got some other, like, there's Brad... Bad Brad, there's Harlan, and then there's Player X, who, like, really is the one who kind of helps her take the game away from Dean Keith, but then in turn takes the game away from Molly. This is
my first note of this.
Okay.
Michael Cera is 1000% the reason Katie loves this movie.
He helps. I do love Michael Cera. So
yeah.
So Michael Cera's Player X is based on a real person who is named in the lawsuit and therefore named in the book.
So
do you have any guesses as to who this person is?
These are my top 5 guesses.
Okay.
So one, I've asked you a few of these already. So one, I know Ben Affleck loves poker.
Okay.
2, I said James Franco because he's kind of a shitty guy and I could see him being involved in this.
Okay.
Then I thought you said Michael Cera's perfect casting. So then I went Elijah Wood, Daniel Radcliffe as weird little dudes that are like. I think Elijah Wood loves poker. I don't know about Daniel Radcliffe. But my fifth guess is Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, why?
Because he's a druggie, and I could see him kind of. I think he was a shitty person before Iron Man.
So what's interesting is that there is a clue in the movie as to who this is.
Is it Player X?
Yeah. So at one point they say
Like Racer X and Speed Racer?
No.
Is it Matthew Fox?
No. At one point
What a crazy person for it to be. It was Matthew Fox.
At one point she says she refers to him as a green screen little shit. So now all 5 of your people that you have said would qualify because they've all are famous for roles that they have done in front of green screens.
Interesting.
But what is more interesting is
I guess Tobey Maguire too.
that's Player X.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
So I had guessed it right before.
You never said Tobey
Oh, I
Maguire.
just didn't say it out loud. Yeah. So Tobey Maguire is loves poker too, and I know he's kind of a shitty person.
Yeah. So that's Player X.
That's funny.
Molly said that he was the best player, the worst tipper, and the worst loser. And that he just loved to see other people suffer. She said one time Tobey Maguire offered her a $1,000 tip if she would bark like a seal for food. And she refused, and he like stormed out.
Wow, they made him look a lot better. I mean, they made him look shitty, but like they kind of gave like a love vibe between them. Like there was some sort of romantic thing that, not that she had
There
it, but
wasn't,
he
but
assumed there was between them.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's hard to make Michael Cera unlikable. This is about as close as you can get.
I don't know if you've seen This Is the End when he is just doing coke all the time.
Yeah,
and
but
is a
that's
terrible
not
person.
him. Anyway, other people at the game. So you've got Tobey Maguire, obviously. Ben Affleck did go to some of these games. Leo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Macaulay Culkin, Alex Rodriguez.
Alex Rodriguez is the baseball player they mentioned. I thought it was
Yeah.
Derek Jeter, but that makes more sense.
Nelly and the Olsen twins. Those
Probably
are
how
names
they met
that
Heath
I've got.
Ledger and got him killed with their medicine.
Yeah. So, what did you think of, like, just while we're talking about the poker, what did you think of the actual poker playing?
I think it was fine, but I don't think there was a lot of poker playing. Like there wasn't a lot of like you're watching them go through the process of betting on the flop, betting on the river. You know, you're not seeing their like strategy. You're just being told what happens.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also think poker is one of the most boring things you could possibly watch. So you had to do it.
Yeah. So all of the extras
Are poker players.
professional poker players.
Like Daniel Negreanu was in it, I'm assuming. Phil Ivey, maybe.
I think Phil Ivey, yes. I don't really know people.
Yeah, I'm just naming.
Yeah. So they were
Phil
all
Hellmuth, was he in it? I doubt it. He's an
I
asshole.
just said I don't know.
No, I know. I'm just talking out loud about poker players that I know.
So yeah, all the extras are professional poker players. All of the dealers are all professional.
Yeah, you gotta
dealers.
make it
that
look good.
because they wanted. Yeah, they were like Aaron Sorkin was like professional players and dealers. They hold the cards a certain way. They put the chips in a certain way. Like
Yeah.
you want that to look real. But then what happened is during when they're like shooting and then they're on a break or something, you have all these professional poker players and then you have all these actors with like a lot of money and they would play real games of poker in between shots. And in between takes. And so then the actors would like lose so much money. So normally an extra, Aaron Sorkin was like, an extra usually makes about like $90 a day. These guys are like the best paid extras ever because
That's
they
really
were
funny.
taking home so much money because the actors were like, oh, this is so cool. I can play poker with like
The real poker
a
player.
professional poker player.
Well, Ben Affleck is like a legit like World Series. He's like probably one of the better poker playing celebrities.
Well,
I
he
think.
wasn't in this movie.
That makes sense. I'm sorry. I really went backwards.
Now you're like, he was at the real game. So he was
yeah. I got
no,
really
not
confused.
quite. Not quite.
I'm so. Oh no, my head's gone. I will say that I feel the movie is much better when she's in New York than LA.
Yeah, so she leaves LA because eventually,
Because Peter Parker,
yeah, why is Peter Parker mad at her? What happens?
he is mad at her because, again, Molly Brown wrote this in her book.
Bloom.
Molly Bloom.
Molly Brown is a different Denver lady.
Molly Bloom. She finds out he is funding the other players.
Oh yeah, he's like
and
backing
so
Harlan.
when they win, they pay him.
Yeah.
For what he is funding, and he's like funding 4 of the players at the table, and she's like, "Well, that makes it unfair, and sort of like you're doing
then
this illegally.
You win even if you lose."
I have a heart of gold,
Yeah.
and I won't allow that kind of cheating. But what I think actually happened is she found that out, and she said one thing, like negating it, like maybe under her breath, and it goes, "You're done. Fuck you."
Yeah.
I'm Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, supposedly
I'm the Cider House Rules kid.
that phone call where he calls her and like, ha ha ha, like that also really happened.
Oh,
Tobey
100%.
Maguire
I
did
can
that.
totally believe that. I do
So-
like knowing this more about Tobey Maguire because it kind of makes the movie Babylon better.
Ugh, I hate his character in Babylon.
Yeah, but
I
I think
just
that's
didn't.
probably more who he's like.
I didn't like Babylon. I like the scenes where Margot Robbie is like crying because she's like where she's such a good actor that she can
Yeah.
cry on command. Like those scenes are really cool, but everything else I didn't really care for.
I think there's some really cool scenes. I think there's a really good idea, and I think it's a really bad third act.
Yeah, just like The Brutalist.
No. Okay. So yeah, that poker's fine. Again, I really liked Harlan when he just loses his ass going on tilt and like gets divorced because he's
Oh my god, yeah.
so addicted to gambling. Like
Awful.
that's real. Like that's a real thing I can picture happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then
I don't
she's
like
like
the guy Christopher O'Dowd or whatever.
Chris O'Dowd. Yeah.
He's
So
just
that's in New
odd.
York.
Yeah.
Well, so she goes to New York. She like starts from scratch and then builds up another big game. And Chris O'Dowd is a player, and he's like always drunk and declaring his
Flirting with
love
her.
for her.
Yeah.
But then it turns out he's an FBI informant. And so she said in an interview, like she really prided herself on vetting who was at her games to make sure that they would be able to like pay up, and especially since she wasn't taking a rake. And so what happens is like she moves to New York, and then she just sort of starts taking drugs.
The drug thing is so stupid because like it's so like kind of just thrown in and not and taken away, like fixed.
Yeah.
They don't ever. She's just like, yeah, I didn't know he's an FBI informant because I was just really high on pills.
Yeah.
But they don't show the start of it. They don't really.
Yeah,
show
like
the
I don't
end of
really
it.
get why she started doing that.
To stay awake. She was like taking speed and coke to like stay awake.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. And I'm sure everyone else there was also doing drugs. So
But it is like it's so oddly put into the movie, and it's not even like a C storyline.
yeah, totally.
It just kept mentioning as like, oh, flaws. I was on drugs,
Right. So
which again makes me annoyed at Molly Bloom because it feels like the drugs should be a part of it, like when of her like spiraling, her starting to take rakes of the game.
yeah, it kind of all happens at
Fast.
once where like now she's suddenly doing drugs, and now it's like, oh, you have like people putting down so much money that you have to take a rake or like you're not going to be able to afford anything. And then she kind of stops vetting people. So you've got this FBI informant there that she doesn't know about, but then he brings in the Russians.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then there's like these Russian players out in Brooklyn. And so then a few of them come to her game. But she doesn't know that they're like in the mafia.
yeah.
She just thinks they're like crazy rich. The one guy brings a Monet,
That I mean,
and we love that actor.
so that's my second thing. 1,000% Katie loves this movie because this guy from this Daniel Radcliffe show that we like is
Miracle
in it.
Workers. But I didn't know that he was in it because when I saw this the first time, we hadn't seen Miracle Workers yet. So I didn't know that. And then also a surprise Joe Keery appearance. So I just love all the little cameos.
I will tell you, the guy bringing in the Monet, he probably has like 2 minutes in this entire film. and he maximizes it.
No small roles.
It's like I love this character. I want more of this character.
I know.
I was upset
like,
he wasn't in more in the movie.
Make a movie about Shelley, and maybe it's Honora.
Here, I got this Monet. You can't
put that outside.
put that outside.
You can't have that. You took that on the subway?
It was on my
no,
wall.
I didn't take a subway. Yeah, amazing. But then there's like, oh my gosh, this scary moment where her driver is like, hey, I've got some guys who want to play. And she's like,
Hedge fund
okay, I'll
managers.
meet with them. And then it turns out actually they don't want to play. What they want to do is have her hire them to go collect her debt by using their fists. And she's like, yeah, no thanks, I don't want that. But then they get mad at
Send
her.
an even bigger
and so then
villain.
they send a bigger person and he beats her up.
They
And
do show that.
I mean, that is crazy and so scary because she's like, thinking there's a package at the door, opens it up, and now a guy is just in your home with a gun in your mouth. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that's why I won't play poker.
That's why you won't play poker. Okay.
Because I'm too smart.
Yeah, I mean, Molly was also like getting in over her head like
Yeah.
way too much. She wanted to
Totally.
compete with the Russian mob game.
Hmm. Well, she said there's a line in here that's like, all that mattered to me was like, I wanted to win. I wanted to compete and win. What and who, that was all just details.
Yeah.
Like, and they kind of get into that with then bringing in her father, Kevin Costner.
Which told you this movie was going to bomb.
He gives off big like Alan Rickman vibes of this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I honestly was annoyed at the Kevin Costner role until the end of the movie. And I was like, all right, that's kind of nice. I do enjoy some resolution, but he does feel like he's going away with this guilt-free.
Yeah, kind of. So the whole story is like her dad, pushes her really hard and she like kind of fights with him a lot growing up. They don't see eye to eye. And she's like, why in the end? And this is also fictionalized because anything that happens like outside of the book is technically fictionalized. But some type of conversation at some point happened where she's like, why don't you love me as much as you love my brothers? And why have you never liked me? And he fesses up to like he was cheating on her mom and she like knew but didn't know.
I did right because there's like all these weird things about her dad that are mentioned, but no one's like really telling the truth about it. And then when it comes out, he just cheated on her mom. I just wrote, well, it's not the worst thing the dad could have done. I was nervous that this was going to be way darker situation.
No. But yeah, I thought he was good in it. Kevin Costner's good.
Yeah, I think I didn't like Kevin Costner until like his resolution at the end of the bench.
Sure.
And this is the third time. So Molly Bloom leaves an interrogation or like a questioning thing in that room with Idris Elba when he stands up for her.
I think that's when they're like talking about like the sentence.
Yeah,
They're talking to the prosecution about if she pleads guilty, then like what would the sentence be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that little interrogation room. This is before the court case.
Yeah,
she leaves before going to the court case to go out to where she ice skates and like gets in a fight with everybody.
Yeah, she's skating too fast, and they're like, "Just slow down," and she's like, "I can't.
I can't. I have to compete."
And then she sees her dad and like falls over.
And then she gets a pretzel, and I wrote, 1,000% Katie loves this movie because there's a pretzel in it.
No, I don't. I don't have anything to do with pretzels in movies.
You love a soft pretzel.
I do love a soft pretzel, but not like in a movie.
I know. I'm just trying to.
Who doesn't love soft pretzels?
I'm not like saying it's a bad movie or a good movie. I'm just surprised that you really responded big with this movie. Just because it's like a boring thing with poker, there's like a courtroom scene involved.
Well,
it seems slow at points.
What Aaron Sorkin said is like he feels like Molly Bloom is a real. I know you feel differently, but like she's a real like heroine, like a movie hero, and you don't get a lot of stories like hers where you like she's in a male-dominated world. She's kind of like navigating her own way, and then when the time comes where like they've all been shitty to her and now she could like get them back, but she's choosing not to, and she's choosing to like do the right thing even though it hurts her.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I just find it really interesting as a real story.
That, to me, I guess I'm not seeing that gender dynamic, so I'm not appreciating
Joe
it
doesn't
as
see
much.
gender.
I don't. I'm actually above it.
Okay.
It's a spectrum, and it's all different lights coming out of it. And it scares me. So I guess I don't see that kind of angle, and that makes a lot of sense. I'm always skeptical when someone writes something and tells you they are this. I'm always like a little skeptical.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't bother me because we don't really know what's in her memoir. Like, we haven't read it.
That's fair.
And I feel like, so I've watched like a few interviews with her, and one, I have to say, Jessica Chastain nails it. Like, it was crazy. I felt like I was basically watching Jessica Chastain again in like a brunette wig when I was watching Molly Bloom.
That helps a lot because she's so monotone and boring in this movie that no, she's exactly like the real Molly Bloom. That helps because in the movie I'm like, this is such a weird choice. There's like no dynamism in like her acting. It feels very wooden and like kind of plain.
No, I think she nailed it. When it's impressive because she didn't have a ton of like prep time. Like, she met Molly a couple of times, but it wasn't like, oh, they were preparing for years and years for this role or something.
Yeah.
So I did think that was impressive. And then in the interviews, I think Molly comes across pretty like, I would say relatively humble. Like, she's like, yeah, I messed up. Like,
Yeah,
I
that
did
is
these things
true.
wrong. Like, so I don't have that same issue that you do.
Because like what you're talking about her being the person, I did have a note in here near the end of the movie where I go, I think the excitement or suspense is kind of lost because there's a monotone voice talking the whole time over it.
Gotcha. I think that's also a little Sorkin-esque.
That I do agree. I feel like it's Sorkin who needs as many words as possible in a movie.
Yeah.
And it's filmed like a mobster movie, like looking back at your time, like making it in the mob or mafia.
Who directed The Social Network?
David Fincher.
Oh yeah, David Fincher. Aaron Sorkin was like, yeah, I called up David Fincher and was like, where do you have the actors breathe in my scripts? And he said David Fincher just like laughed at him. He's like, now I realize, like, no, I'm like shocked that any director would ever want to direct one of my scripts because
really
like
funny.
they're so hard. So that was funny.
We talked about Kevin Costner and her dad showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I did right. Wait, her dad is actually the fucking there. Like, it felt like she just had a glimpse of her dad, and that's why she fell because that weight has been put on her.
Yeah, but he's like
'Cause
actually there.
That's what like is driving her to be this crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just there. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're just walking around, and you just imagine the ice rink is probably where your daughter is. You maniac.
Yep.
He's tracking her. Yeah. Two things I had a weird thing. Like, the lady, she makes a ton of money before she rakes.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts raking. But that scene where she starts raking the pot,
Mm-hmm.
no one's like, whoa. You haven't ever. That's when you like have the pot of money and then you take like 10, 15% out of it and set it aside. No one goes, wait a second. What did you just do taking money out of the pot?
Because everyone else does that.
No, I
Is
understand
what
that,
they
but
say.
you've been playing this game for so long and your expectations of what's happened, and all of a sudden there's just money comes out of the pot that's never happened before in this game.
Well,
Is shocking to me.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure they didn't have every conversation in
No,
there.
you're
but-
right. You're right. I know,
yeah.
but it was just like, okay, I would have said something.
Mhm.
The lawyer character, Idris Elba,
Mhm.
he's dynamic, but also it feels like they should have been reversed. Like, he should have been more monotone and like thinking about it, but he's like kind of freaking out and trying to solve all these things. And she's like, I'm not doing that. And he goes, I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, they shot all of their scenes together in like 10 days. It was like a really quick shoot. And they said they would, I guess there weren't really like rehearsals for them. So what they would do is like they would get there in the morning and then he and Jessica would like run their scene together. They would just do like live theater and the whole crew would watch. And then they'd be like, okay, now based on like how you just did it, now we'll figure out where to put the cameras and stuff. Like that's how they did it. And then also like there wasn't a whole lot of, they didn't have a ton of takes for each scene, because normally you would be like, okay, let's try it this way, this way, this way. And like, then we'll figure out later how we want to edit it and stuff. But Aaron Sorkin had like already made those decisions in his head. So they would like film it and he'd be like, okay, we're good. And they'd be like, well, don't you want to maybe have one where like we like keep the camera on Jessica for like a couple more beats or something, so you have like more B-roll to play around with and stuff. And he's like, no. He's like, no, I don't need it. Like he had just already edited it in his head. So he was like, no, I already got exactly what I want.
Yeah, but it does feel like, I feel like if he's editing in his head, he didn't do enough, because this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes about a very boring thing.
I don't think it's that boring. I don't know why you think it's boring. I think it's like, it's a world that when else, I would never know anything about this world. It's like a peek behind the curtain.
Maybe that's another thing, because I know of this world and I know there's these games that run on for like high-end players. So I'm like, yeah.
I don't know anything about this world, so I think it's interesting.
I honestly would love to watch, for a little bit on the Bravo network, they had Celebrity Poker, and Dave Foley was like the announcer for it, with like an actual poker player. Mm-hmm. And so they had real celebrities playing poker in it, and they're like talking out like they're how they're playing and everything, and the celebrities are all talking to each other, and I was like, that was fun. I really liked that. But that was the only poker I could ever watch live.
Sure, yeah. I'm not really interested in watching poker.
Yeah, no one is. Although it does well, not as well as it used to.
Okay, well, do you have any takes?
I do have some takes. I'm going to start with my bad takeaway, because you're just going to disagree with me.
Okay.
Which is Molly a good person? Because I'm going to say no.
Is anyone good or bad? Everyone is nuanced.
Captain America's great.
He makes some bad choices.
Oh, wow. That's not his fault Bucky fell off the train.
I'm just saying, I think she is a good person who got swept up in a lifestyle that leads to some bad things.
Yeah, I
don't think she's a bad person.
To me, again, this goes back to a thing I've reiterated before. I think the actual Molly Bloom is a bad person, but I think she's represented as well as she possibly could be in this movie.
Okay, well, agree to disagree.
Totally fair. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just telling you my takeaway. Normal takeaway. Man, the guy who sucks but is playing for friendships is
Brad.
Too real. Like, I am so lonely. I know it's like actually he's doing something different, but the time he tells her, I just don't have a social life, and these are my only friends.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's partly that, but it's partly
it's the other thing. But the moment he says that line, I go, oh, man.
Yeah, that
and then
hurts.
I wrote in caps, but he's a bastard. My good takeaway, and I think this is a good takeaway, is constantly in this movie, Jessica Chastain as a narrator says, we'll come back to that later. Like there is, this thing happens, he goes, oh, and that guy might know the Russians, but we'll get back to that later.
Like, more about that later.
And I was like, okay, just don't tell us that thing, or tell us later. Don't tell us more about that later 5 times in this movie.
No, I think it's interesting because it's like a note of like, that's important. Because there are some things that she talks about in here that, like, Aaron Sorkin tends to get more detailed than you need to be. So at one point, she's just like, explaining how bottle service works at a club. But, like, you don't need to know that for later. That's not important. It's just, like, very detailed.
Oh,
so
no.
I think it's helpful that sometimes she's like, we'll come back to that. So then you're like, oh, okay, that's something that is important versus just, like, detail for detail's sake.
I disagree with the bottle service description, because I thought that was important early information to explain that Jessica Chastain, the way money works, she fully understands it. So when she runs this game later, you already know that she knows the process of like what's coming in, what's going out, what's the deal, how can you make more, that kind of process. I'm like, that's good. That explains this character better to me.
Yeah, I guess it all has a purpose, but the purpose of that is painting a picture versus you need this for the plot.
But if you're watching a movie and it's 2 hours long, are there parts of movies where you're like, they better tell me this is important or I'm going to just forget what they're talking about? I guess with Aaron Sorkin, there's a lot of words, so it is help when you like do a little highlighter on it.
Yeah.
But I didn't like
other movies do that all in different ways. Sometimes it's called foreshadowing. Sometimes they use music. Sometimes the camera like focuses in on something. So it's just a
this
way
felt
that
like a
he
bonk
does
on the
it.
head.
Whatever.
Pay attention. Bonk, bonk, bonk.
Again, this has an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's you're trying to convince me, not the Rotten Tomatoes people. All right. Those are my 3 takeaways.
Okay, who would you cast Wally as? Joe Keery?
Brad.
Oh, Brad.
Brad's the most Wally looking person.
That's true.
Just sad and kind of like, just
And
help
Wally
me out, please.
would run a Ponzi scheme.
Wally has run a Ponzi. That's what he gave me for my
has.
birthday. He gave
It's
me
a
a
Ponzi
Ponzi scheme.
scheme.
He told me it was as he gave it to me. And I go, what do you mean I have to invest? He goes, look, just give me 3 carrots and you'll get 6 carrots somewhere.
Wally loves carrots. He's addicted to carrots.
He's the carrots, yeah. That's why he let the FBI informant in our house.
Yeah, pretty much.
The drug, yeah, I did write the drugs. I was like, the drug just seems so out of nowhere and just kind of pointless. It is weird.
Okay, well.
Tobey Maguire, there was one other Tobey Maguire thing. He does change to being an asshole really quick in this movie. Where he seems like she looks up to him for a while, and then he's just a total asshole.
Yeah.
So, man, that was not bad. I just noticed that. I was like, well, it just really flipped quick. All right. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the movie.
Okay, well, I don't really want to ask you this, but I guess I will. Joe, is Molly's Game a good movie?
I went into this honestly going to say no. I was bored by the movie. I thought choices were weird in it. The way they did the chronological, not necessarily out of order like chronological, but still this lawyer thing. A lawyer that is the through line in the movie that doesn't start till like 30 minutes into the movie. She meets the lawyer. I am changing my opinion, though, that this is a good movie based on your description that she is doing a perfect Molly Bloom.
She is.
If she wasn't doing a perfect Molly Bloom, I think I would hate this movie. But if she's making that choice because that's who Molly Bloom was like as a person, then I think it is a good movie.
And Jessica Chastain
she's a great actress.
Really great actress. So, yeah, I don't think that she would just like phone this in.
No, I don't think it was phone it in, but I thought it might have been the director telling her to make this choice or whatever.
No, yeah.
Because Aaron Sorkin doesn't want a lot of... Don't make it too crazy. Just say the lines exactly the way they're said.
Yeah.
Would you hang out with Aaron Sorkin?
Yeah.
Is he like... Do people find him annoying or people well revere him?
I always thought people kind of revered him.
Okay.
But maybe that's just in my circles because of The West Wing.
I feel like
Everyone
there's a
loves The
point
West
of Aaron
Wing.
Sorkin that seems like annoying in general. Like kind of
I think it's
pompousy.
I think it's just a running joke of like, there are things like the walk and talk, the Sorkin walk and talk, or like crazy amounts of dialogue. Like,
yeah. Was there any walking and talking in this movie? No, it was all just kind of stuck in the hotel rooms.
Yeah, not a lot of area to walk.
That's probably what David Fincher told him. You want them to breathe, stop making them walk. But yeah, I think it's a good movie.
Yay! I win again.
What the fuck? And I will mention
Just
that
like Molly, I win again.
I would 100% watch Jingle All the Way 15 times before I watch this movie again.
I wouldn't.
10?
No.
Sinbad.
Okay, well, what movie are you going to have us watch next?
Oh, man. So I thought, what if a lady was in charge? That's a good transition, don't you think? And we haven't done sci-fi in a while. So I am going to make you watch a movie that I think is really good. And it has, honestly, one of my favorite weird scenes in a movie ever.
Okay.
We're going to watch Ex Machina. That has an actor you love. You'll find out. I won't spoil it now, but it has one of your favorite actors in it.
Okay, great.
And Oscar Isaac.
Wow. And I love Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, you love the other guy more.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Where can people watch it? Molly's Game, if you still haven't watched it, but now you are convinced you should, based on Joe's recommendation, is on Netflix.
Ex Machina says it's on Netflix, but I don't know if it's still on Netflix. Otherwise, you can rent it for $2 or $3 on Prime.
Okay.
And again, if you don't have the money for it, reach out to me and I will give you the money to rent Ex Machina, because I like a movie we've already seen that I want to recommend, like a stranger to watch if we have another guest.
Mm-hmm.
Moon. It's like a weird little sci-fi movie that is like super good that not a lot of people know about.
Okay, great. So we will watch Ex Machina. Well, this was another good movie
Podcast.
We appreciate you all listening, and we super appreciate our podcast editor and theme song creator, Kale Forbes. Theme song vocals from Austin Fry, and our logo from Carrie Pulley. If you want to hear more from us, follow our Instagram at TIAGMpod, and you can find our own Instagram handles there too, or you can email us at tiagmpodcast@gmail.com. As always, following, listening, subscribing, commenting, sharing, rating, reviewing, super, super helpful. And subscribing is the most helpful of all, so please do that if you can.
Also, folks, for those listeners that we have here, I'm going to be setting up a Discord so people can communicate with each other. Like our fans can have a chat where they talk to each other about the movies we talk about.
You are?
Yep.
Okay, guess we're doing that. So figure out Discord.
Well, you're just talking to your mom at this
I know. I was like, yeah, we have a Discord. It's my text thread with my own mom.
Well, we have other listeners than just your mom. It would be weird, like we're doing this podcast for your mom, so she like it's a memorial for her passing. She always loved movies, and I'm hoping the airwaves in heaven are picking up this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, guess you can figure out the Discord situation.
We'll post it on Instagram.
We'll post it on our Instagram. I'm Katie Outledge.
I'm Joe Bates.
We love you.
Good
Bye.
night. This is a good movie podcast with Katie and Joe.